And there's a big hall here. It's like a single screen theater.
Should we begin?
Yeah.
Okay. So Amish was very clear that he wanted a half an hour of interaction with his fans, so I think we should just get started right away.
Readers.
Huh?
Readers, it's better than fans.
Readers, fans, same thing. So Amish, you've often said that the Immortals of Meluha began as a philosophical thesis about the nature of evil. At what point did this thesis morph into fiction, and why did you think that this was the best way to present the material?
Yeah, you're right. It began as a pure philosophical thesis. This was, 10, 11 years ago. My family and I, we were watching TV, and just to give you a background, my family, and we're the kind of people who love reading a lot. All of us have big libraries at home. Each of us on average, we read at least between 4 to 8 books a month. And we're the typical argumentative Indian family. We love debating. And a debate began in our family after seeing a program on History Channel. And the debate got into the area of what is evil. And a thought occurred to me on that as an answer to that question, partly inspired by the Upanishads, specifically Ishavasya Upanishads and a few other Upanishads, partly my own thoughts. And they told me it's nice, write it down. So I started writing it down. So it began as a pure philosophy thesis. And when I gave it to my family, and some of them said that, look, it's a cure for insomnia, to try and write an adventure fiction series, and and try and communicate the philosophy through that story. And that's how the journey began, actually. So when I started writing.
And that's when the decision to make it fiction happened.
Yeah, sort of. There was this one small, tiny little problem. I didn't absolutely know fiction before, The Immortals of Meluha. Not even a short story in school, absolutely nothing, zip. When I was young, I was very academically oriented. So like most academically oriented people of my generation, I graduated in science, in mathematics, because stuff like, I was passionate about history, and I loved reading as well, but at least in the time when I was growing up, history wasn't, or English literature, these weren't wise career options. Ki history theek hai beta, kaam kya karoge? So I had done the practical thing and moved into science and mathematics and did an MBA. And I was active in sports when I was young in school, competitive sports, boxing, gymnastics, but I was never creative. I did absolutely no fiction. I did absolutely nothing. I did some poetry in college. They were terrible, nobody liked it. Only my girlfriend liked it, and who's now my wife. So that was the cue for all the girls in the audience to go, oh, thank you. Yeah. So one of the reasons I liked my girlfriend was she didn't laugh at my poems. So it was a pretty strange leap to take, to decide that I'll start writing fiction. But when Lord Shiva supports you, yeah, you can do anything, man.
So in the process, do you think the original philosophy you wanted to discuss was lost? For instance, you do touch upon it in the book. You write about the legend that says that Nilkant will be the destroyer of evil. And then in the second book, you finding the Nagas becomes the path to discovering evil. And in the third book, there's a chapter titled...
Don't give away. How many of you guys haven't read the entire trilogy?
Okay,
a few people, but shame on you guys, man. The books are available here. Just pick it up and read
them. They wanted to hear you first.
So don't give away
the end. Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay, and then we learn the end, which has to do with evil. So, but these come off as bits and pieces rather than a sustained inquiry, which you wanted to do when you say philosophical thesis, right? So, what parts of the original thesis, original philosophy that you had originally in mind, how much of it is in the books now?
Look, most of it is there, and in philosophy, I'm a lover of philosophy, and the way there are two approaches in how to communicate philosophy. One is, of course, a sermon where you just kind of download information. There are books like that as well. But the more popular approach has always been through conversations, through stories.
Right.
So if you look at our greatest Upanishads, for example, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, it's essentially a conversation between Maharishi Yajnavalkya and Maharishika Maitreyi. Why is it conveyed as a conversation? Think of Plato, the Republic. It's conveyed as a conversation. Many are the Ramayana and the Mahabharata are essentially philosophical texts, and they are conveying philosophy through the story, right? Mahabharata, for example, we all know it was composed by Maharshi Vedvyas, but that wasn't his original name. Vedvyas is actually a title. There's a Vedvyas in every Manvantar. His original name was Krishna Dvaipayan. How did he get Dvaipayan? How did he get the title of Vedvyas? Because he compiled and divided the Vedas, right, into 4 things. So there is this myth that says that he wrote the Mahabharata so he could convey the philosophies of the Vedas through a story. This is a tradition that's been rich, in India and widely practiced across the world as well. Why? Because we like stories, most human beings. We are essentially about our stories. And if you try and convey philosophies through stories, the chances of it being absorbed are reasonably higher as compared to a pure, kind of philosophical download where most people kind of go to sleep after the first page. So I don't think it's been lost. But is it possible that many readers could have got different interpretations from what I intended? Yeah, of course it's true. And I say there's nothing wrong with it, because you absorb what you're meant to absorb, depending on the kind of life that you're leading in this life. There's a certain karma that you have in this life, and there are certain philosophies that you must follow for this life. There's nothing wrong with you absorbing what is meant to be absorbed for you.
Okay.
So the way I see it is, yes, it may not have been an exact download, but that doesn't matter. That's the way it's supposed to be.
So what you wanted to say did get said at the end.
I said what I wanted to say. What people would hear would depend on them.
Okay. You end the trilogy with this line: if the Lord Nilkant allows it, the unadulterated story of the Mahabharata shall be told one day. Is that your next book?
My publisher...
I know he's here somewhere.
He's here and he's giving me these very strong, dirty looks. There's this strict confidentiality clause that I have in my agreement.
Which is why
I'm a good boy.
You owe it to your fans.
I'm a good boy. I follow agreements.
Okay.
So I've been told not to speak about it. They're going to be making an official announcement on 23rd Jan at the Jaipur Lit Fest. I'm sorry, I know this is a Hindu Lit Fest, but I didn't make this decision. You can blame my publisher.
Okay, so
he wants to make that announcement on 23rd Jan, so I can't say anything about it. Sorry.
Okay. What brought about the decision to name the characters in your books after mythological characters like Shiva, Lord Ram? After all, your stories are fiction, the locations are a combination of myth and fiction. So why did you think that, I can understand Shiva, but everybody around him, it's like almost like you're reconfiguring the entire legend of Shiva using the mythological names. What made that decision
I'm not reconfiguring it. Who am I to do that? I mean, I'm essentially following the story the way it came to me.
Okay.
When I did start writing the Shiva trilogy at the beginning, like I told you, I had no experience of fiction writing at all, except for some insurance company business plans, which were fiction. So, how many of you guys are MBAs out here? Not too many. Okay, thank God.
Yeah.
What we MBA types do when we have no idea what to do, because I had no idea how to write a fiction book. So what we MBA types do is we make a strategic plan. Yeah. So I'd made a strategic plan on how to write a book. And there are these self-help books which claim they can make inspired authors out of you. So I read many of those, and they suggest a standard algo on how to write a book. You should make character sketches. So I did that, 1-page character sketches of each character. So I did that in Microsoft Word. Then they suggested that you should write a summary of the entire story, chapter-wise, so the story becomes clear in your mind, and you can expand each chapter, and voila, it becomes a book. So I did that in Microsoft PowerPoint, actually, bullet-wise. And then they said that you should be disciplined, because nothing can be achieved without discipline. So you should have a date-wise plan. You should have a daily target of the number of words that you need to write.
Did you do that?
It's like a sales target. I did that. I actually made a date-wise plan on Microsoft Excel. which would have so many words to write in this day, and there was an underachievement on this day.
How many words?
So I'd put a target of, I think, 1,000 words or something. And so if there's underachievement on one day, then it kind of, I'd made a nice, formula model on that Excel file. So the number of words would get carried over onto the next thing. It was a lovely plan. And if I had presented that at a board meeting, it would have been, considered like, this is it, man. It's a McKinsey report type plan. And like most of those consultancy projects, this project was also a super flop. And my wife actually helped me out. She's the smart one in the family. Another cue for the girls to go, oh. Okay, so she helped me out. She told me that the problem is that you're trying to do something creative with an MBA approach, and that's not going to work. You're using the wrong side of the brain. You need to use the other side, the creative side. And she'd read this line somewhere, and I love this line. I've quoted it, I think, 1,000,000 times. She said that you cannot approach the story with the arrogance of a creator, because you're not the creator of the story. The story already exists in a parallel universe. The characters are living in that parallel universe, and you've been given the privilege of entering that universe and recording what you see. So don't write the story with the arrogance of a creator. Write it instead. She said, you'll love the second line even better then. She said, write it instead with the humility of a witness. So you are not in control of the story at all. So if the characters have that name, they have that name. I can't do anything about it. There are some names which are not a part of the traditional myths, like Parvateshwar, for example, who's a very important character. And there are some names which are a part of the traditional myth, like Daksha, like Veerbhadra, like Satiji. And I follow the story the way it came to me. I am not in control of it. It's like Lord Shiva is writing it, and I'm just a channel through which the story is flowing.
Is that still...
So if you're asking it was my decision, I'm saying it wasn't my decision. The decision was made for me, but I honored that decision. Yeah.
Is that still how you write? I mean, you're on work, you're working on your new books now. Is that whether you want to call it God or muse or whatever, is that still how you're writing it? Are you still being a witness to stories happening in a parallel universe?
Yeah. Even the new series that I'm writing.
It's a series, okay.
Sorry. Sorry. Okay, but okay. Okay, but even the new series, since it's out now, even the new series that I'm writing.
So wait. So I'm glad that news got at the Hindu Lit Fest and not at the Jaipur Lit Fest, right?
So, but even in this, I'm essentially a witness to the story, and which is why for me, writing is the best part of the process. I tend to cut off. I interact only with my family members and my friends when I'm writing, and it's every time I open the laptop, it's like I get to enter this beautiful world, which is far more beautiful than the one we live in, and I get to see what's going on, and I get to record it, and I don't record everything, it's like, okay, I feel like recording this, I don't feel like recording this, but it's such a wonderful world, and I get to enter that, and it's a privilege. Yeah. So even the new story, yes, I'm writing as a witness. I'm not in control. Yeah.
So
sorry.
Now with all the buzz about the recorded ones and the reputation, do you feel the pressure?
While writing, no.
Okay.
While writing, like I said, I frankly, I don't really care about anyone when I'm writing. It's I know it might sound stupid, but I genuinely believe if I dishonor the blessing that's coming to me, it'll stop. So I'm going to write the way I want to write. If the next book series flops, hopefully it won't. It won't. But if the next one flops, I'll go back to banking. I'm clear on that. But I will write the way I want to write. I start thinking of how it should be marketed only once the manuscript is done. At that point of time, yes, a certain amount of pressure does come in because I know my publisher is investing a big amount of money, so it's my duty to make sure that he recovers that money. But while writing, there's no pressure at all. While writing,
Okay.
it's just a wonderful experience. I get to spend time in that world.
So how different is life after fame and fortune, if you want to call it that? Because one day you're an unknown banker, and then the next day you're on the Forbes India list. There's Shekhar Kapoor is calling you India's first literary pop star, and you're being called the next Tolkien, India's Tolkien. How hard is it to stay grounded? I mean, are you a different Amish now?
I'm certainly a different Amish, but not because of the fame and fortune thing. That's fleeting, boss. I mean, my next book series flops, it'll all be forgotten.
Don't keep saying that.
Okay, no, it won't flop. It won't. Okay, sorry. But what changed me completely was actually the process of writing. When I was, in my banking days, I was very aggressive, typically MBA, hyper-competitive, shouting and screaming kind of guy. I'm sure my teams must have hated me. I was never happy with whatever I got. My bonus was never enough. I always felt that my promotion was late. When I became a senior management committee member and I got a cabin, that was a dream. But then suddenly I felt, no, the cabin is not big enough. It should be bigger. My assistant is an idiot. I should get a better assistant. I should be so aggressive with my boss as well. If I look back right now, I remember there was a time when I used to head the marketing team. This must have been, 7, 8 years back. And I was having an argument with my boss because I believed in a campaign, because I thought it would work. And my boss felt that it wouldn't work. So I actually told him, if I look back right now, I don't know, I was really stupid. I actually told him, boss, you can't spell marketing. So I'm going ahead with this campaign. And if it doesn't work, then you fire me. If you look back right now, I was really crazy and hyper-aggressive. The books have changed me by 180 degrees. I'm a much calmer person today. I'm still competitive. Some things are part of your character. They don't die. But I'm not as hyper-competitive as I used to be. I don't shout and scream as much as I used to. I realize what a wonderful family I have, how lucky I am. I am genuinely happy. So actually the process of writing the books has changed me positively, dramatically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you just spoke a bit about how you used to do X number of words a day. Do you still do that? Do you make it a point to write a fixed number of words a day? Do you prefer writing early or late? Tell us a bit about your routine.
Look, I'm an early morning person.
Okay. How early is that?
I'm normally up by 5:30, 6 latest, normally, every day, no matter what time I go to sleep. After 10 in the night, my brain stops working. I can't do any thinking after that. I wake up every morning, I do my puja, I exercise, I read 4 newspapers every morning. I read and then I start writing. So I normally like to write in the mornings. And I write till as long as, the words flow. Some days it flows really well. So, I might write for 8-9 hours at a stretch. Some days it doesn't flow, yeah. Lord Shiva is busy with someone else, and it's okay. So at those days I shut the laptop and I pick up a book or to read,
so
or
the words...
I watch a movie. There's no word limit.
Okay.
I discover the story. I discover the story while writing as much as the readers discover it while reading.
Okay.
There are times even I get shocked by what happened. Like, अरे ये character ने ऐसा कैसे कर दिया? So that's the way I write. I discover it.
Tell us about this whole music thing, because you once said, if I were writing a war scene, I would listen to the music of Eklavya, and somehow that used to help the flow, or when I would write a love scene, I would listen to the music of Dawn, the Shah Rukh Khan version. Can you tell us a bit about how this process
My God, you've done research, man. I think I must have said this only once in an interview. Yeah, I'm a lover of music.
Okay.
And for me, music works like a key to enter that universe. And I listen to all genres of music, from Indian classical to Western classical to rock to metal to heavy metal to Hindi movies music to old Hindi music to world music to regional music to Tamil music. I mean, one of my favorite albums of all times is Kandu Konde Kandu Konde. It's rocking music. So I don't listen to rap. That's the only genre I don't listen, but that's not music really, actually. So I listen to every other kind of music. And for me, the words itself don't matter. It's the mood of the music that helps me enter that universe. And it's like, for example, while writing the third book, there's this movie called, which is that Amir Khan movie? He keeps losing his memory again and again. Gajini. Okay. Gajini. So, I lost my memory of that. In Gajini, there's this song, Kaise Mujhe Tum Mil Gayi, which is actually a love song. For some reason in my mind, it is associated with intense anger, like you want to burn the world kind of anger. And I don't know why, okay? And I would listen to that song to get me into that angry mood, to enter a part of, say, if I'm writing a war scene. So the music could be anything. It could be Beethoven, it could be Kishori Amankar, it could be anyone. So I listen to any kind of music which will help me work that key to enter that universe.
You always have music playing when you're writing?
I always have music playing. I always have cream biscuits. I eat a lot of cream biscuits while writing. I love cream biscuits, yeah. So while writing.
So music and cream biscuits.
Yeah.
That's, okay, all right.
That's a secret.
Okay. Your books, I basically want to ask you a bit about your attitude towards messages in your books, because you touch upon topics like eradication of caste, the futility of war, widow remarriage, untouchability, industrial pollution even. Do you think art should aspire to leave a message, especially when you're talking about popular fiction?
Look, I think to each his own. Who am I to give gyan on what others should do? But at least for me, a story is always driven by a core philosophy. And the story is the wrapper around it. You need a damn good rapper for the philosophy to sell. Sadly, even in today's world, people don't judge a human being by the content of his character. They judge him by the cut of his suit, at first call at least. They don't judge him by the quality of his thoughts. They judge him by the quality of his language, which is disgusting, but that's the way the world is. So for me, a story without philosophy is like a body without soul. It must have some messages that it wants to convey. Now, others may agree or disagree with that message. That's their choice. But the writer must communicate something that he wants, that he feels deeply about. There are issues that I feel strongly about. Women's empowerment, for example. I feel very strongly about it. If you ask me, social issue number 1 to 10 in modern India is the issue of women's empowerment. We keep talking about other issues. That is a fact that I hope everyone takes this seriously, because we keep getting distracted by other issues. We keep talking about religious violence, we keep talking about... There's no problem is as big as the problem of women's empowerment in India. And I'm not just talking about rape, I'm talking about the systematic murder of girl children that's taking place through feticide and through systematic malnutrition. If you go by looking at our population ratio, the normal male, I'm not talking at birth, but I'm talking about the entire population. The normal male to female population ratio should be 100:100 or 99:100. Men should be slightly less, because men are genetically weaker. We have, the Y chromosome is essentially a rump, whereas women have 2 X chromosomes, so they have a backup. Any IT guys out here, you know the power of a backup. Yeah, so women have that in their genetic system. Genetically, they are stronger. A normal society should have that kind of a ratio. But there are abnormal societies, like China, like all of the Arab world, like practically all societies of South Asia, where the male-female ratio is abnormal. In India, I agree, India is not as bad as China and the Middle East, but that doesn't make our crimes any less. Our male-to-female ratio is 108:100. You apply that to our population, that means over the last 50-60 years, between 40 to 45 million girls have been killed. 40 to 45 million, either in the womb or through systematic malnutrition, and they die at the first sign of a disease. This is a burning issue. We need to speak about this. The good news for us is we don't need to be nihilistic. We don't need to say our ancient culture was bad and we have to start from scratch. We can actually go back to our ancient culture. Because in our ancient culture, women were respected. In the Rig Veda, for example, there are 30 Maharishikas whose hymns have been quoted in the Rig Veda, which is our oldest and our holiest scripture. I admit there are smritis that are illiberal and patriarchal, but there are also smritis that are very supportive of women's rights, like Devala Smriti, for example. And what I'm trying to do is tell people that actually by respecting women, you're not being less Indian. In fact, you're being more Indian. You're being truly Indian. You're genuinely respecting what our original culture was. And for me, this is a very important issue. If I try and communicate this through my books, I feel at least I'm doing my bit.
Right.
Okay, and this is, the problem I think in our society on the issue of women's empowerment, I'm just talking about one issue, there are many other issues in the book.
So the
problem with women's empowerment is we keep pointing fingers at the government. We expect the government to solve our problems. Most Indian governments are such they can't even build roads. Okay, so expecting them to solve such a massive problem is stupid. And it is not, and it is, what we have to realize is not governmental oppression. The government is not oppressing women. Society is doing it. We ourselves are doing it. We are doing it to the women in our own families. So this is an issue that we need to take up as a society. And I think anyone who's in the creative space, anyone who is in popular culture, if he's not talking about this issue, he's not doing his duty to India, he's not doing his duty to the blessing that he's receiving.
So these people are waving cards at me, so I think I need to have about 2 more questions for you before I turn you over to your fans. Your books haven't been targeted by fundamentalists for depicting Shiva as a human being who smokes pot and says things like shit and damn it. As a cool dude, basically. Even Ayodhya, the way you describe it, is filled with sexually confident women. And sexually confident women is actually a phrase in the book, who make passes at Shiva by touching his backside. And the Parshuram is described as a madman. Now,
this is different from the 6th Vishnu Parshuram.
Right. Okay. So, no, I'm just,
Just a character who happens to be
I know what
Parshuram.
you mean. But for that matter, even the
And
Shiva
we discover
is
that he's not mad. He is actually
So,
a very
so why do you think
suffering soul.
you haven't faced any protests or any thing about your interpretation of certain things that are sacred to religious beliefs, let's say?
2 things. One, I mean, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, I'm not being facetious. If you actually want to write a story like this, there's no better country than India to do it. And I'll tell you why. There are people from the media world out here. It is a fact that 95% of the controversies are frankly generated. They don't happen spontaneously. When my first book it was rejected by every publisher, so I'd self-published it, and I'd met various PR agencies. And my wife and I, we'd met, this doyen of the PR world, and what he told me was, Amish, what you need is some controversy to sell this book. And I'm a very devout Shiva worshipper, and I'm a very proud Hindu. I'm proud of my religion, and I'm very clear that if I have to sell this book through controversy, I'd rather it not sell. So I obviously looked shocked when I obviously looked shocked when he told me what you need is some controversy. I think he misread my expression. My wife and I, we were both there. I think he misread our expressions, and he said, no, you don't understand. It doesn't take too much to create a controversy. All we need is some 10 people because it's about the angle of the camera. If you have it at a low angle, it looks like a lot of people. We need to burn a few copies of your book. I know the right people. Once moment some news channel picks it up, breaking news, everyone else will also pick it up. Newspapers will also cover it. And this India, there'll never be actual violence. You're not going to die, don't worry. But your books will sell. I, of course, was appalled, and I said, I'm doing no such thing. So my point is actually, if you genuinely avoid controversy, as I do, 95% of the cases actually doesn't happen. Okay. That's a fact. That's a sad fact. Most of the controversies are generated. There are 5% cases, I admit, where controversies themselves pick up. I think maybe, and to me, this is a tribute to Indian liberalism, because there are people who disagree with my interpretation. I met some at LitFest, but they always say that one can understand that you've written it with respect, even if it's a different interpretation. You respect our philosophies, and you've written it with a sense of devotion, even if it's different. And we respect that, so no problem. Okay? And to me, this is a tribute to Indian liberalism. And you can say this is theoretical, but in my case, it is practical proof. And if you look in our past, the concept of modernizing and localizing our stories has been a rich tradition. The version of the Ramayana that at least most people, Maharashtra northwards, know as the official Ramayana is actually the Ramcharitmanas, which is a 16th century modernization of the original Ramayana. Why do they think this is the original Ramayana? Because there was a television serial in the 1980s where Ramanand Sagar happened to pick Ramcharitmanas as the source material. Therefore, if you ask most people, at least in an Indian audience, that is the concept of Lakshman Rekha discussed in the Ramayana. How many of you guys believe it is Lakshman Rekha in the Ramayana? Oh, surprise. Okay. In North India, 99% will say yes, because in the Ramcharitmanas, Lakshman Rekha is discussed. When the original Valmiki Ramayana, there is no concept of Lakshman Rekha. Right? So, and this is just one example. There are other examples. There's a version of the Ramayana called the Adbhut Ramayana, which was written in the 12th century, where there are two Ravans, and the main Ravan, the elder Ravan, is not killed by Lord Ram, he's killed by Sita ji, when she takes a true form as Ma Kali. I know in Tamil Nadu there is another version of the Ramayana which is most popular, Kamban Ramayana, which was written by Thiru Kambanji, and that is, Thiru is the term for respect, if I am not mistaken?
Yes, it is.
Yes, okay. Okay. So, and that doesn't follow the Valmiki Ramayana exactly. This concept of modernizing and localizing myths has been around in India, and I've just given you examples of the Ramayana. In all the Puranas, in the Mahabharata, there are so many. The version of the Mahabharata that most of us follow now, the critical edition brought out by Baroda University, that actually in its source material it says that it looked at 1200 versions of the Mahabharata.
Right.
And it actually selected pieces to put into a critical edition. So my point is, there's nothing, I haven't done anything new. I've only followed a very rich Indian tradition. So why should there be any controversy?
And therefore there's no controversy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just have to ask this last question because you happen to be in Chennai. In the 80s, when you were at Lawrence School, you discovered this actor and became a huge fan. That actor's name is Rajinikanth. Yes. So tell us a little about that.
Thalaiva!
So tell us a little about that.
I'm a big fan of Rajinikanth. I mean, the first time I saw Chandramukhi, is it Chandramukhi or Chandramukhi?
Mukhi.
Mukhi,
Yeah.
okay. The first time I saw Chandramukhi, I saw it in Tamil without subtitles. And I realized you don't need to know the language to enjoy a Rajinikanth movie. It was just rocking, man. And I saw it the second time, of course, with subtitles, and then I understood what the story was about. I've been a huge fan of his, and he's just a rock star. He's God, yeah. And but sadly, I think many times his movies don't exploit his genuine, fantastic acting skills as well. How many of you, I'm sure everyone has seen Talapati. You've seen Talapati, right? Yeah. There's this scene. I'd seen that movie a long time back. There's this scene in that movie where because he's kind of representative of Karna's character, and there's this scene where he's discovered who his mother is. And I remember there's a tune playing in the background, which is a rendition of a lullaby, and she's going to a temple, if I'm not mistaken. She's going to a temple, and he's just following her. Okay, he's just looking. He's doing nothing. He's just following her, and he's looking. And man, the expression on his face, it brings tears to your eyes. It shows, that like deep, pure love of a child for his mother. Yeah. So he's a rock star, man. He's an absolute rock star.
So, questions from the audience?
Hopefully there are people going around with the mics, so you just need to crack their attention.
Hello,
Yeah.
sir.
Hi. Amish, man, not sir. Go ahead.
I have this question not only to you, but to all the authors and all the people in the media and literary field. Thing is, how do you tackle piracy? If I want to download a movie or song or a book, I can do it like that. But so what is your take on it? How will you address the issue?
Yeah, sadly that's a fact. A rough rule of thumb from what I've been told is if your book is successful and your sales are X, you should assume piracy is another X, so your total sales would be 2X. It's unfortunate, the government loses tax revenue, we are doing something illegal. There are ways to control it, of course. I mean, if the publisher has a big print run at the beginning, it cuts the time span for the pirates to do their business. You have to have better DRM, on e-books. But this is a problem, yeah. I think perhaps the only thing that can change it is and we as a country need to realize that actually if we ourselves are doing piracy and, breaking laws, what right do we have to point fingers at bureaucrats and politicians? We have to be examples first of people following laws on everything. And at least I say that even if it's 12:30 in the night, if that signal is red, you should stop. You have to follow the laws before pointing fingers at politicians and bureaucrats.
Sir? Sir,
Okay.
may I ask my question?
Hang on, you're not speaking. Someone else is speaking. Okay. Sorry. One sec. We'll come back. Can you introduce yourself before your...
I'm Ravi.
Hi, Ravi.
Hi. I had this question since you mentioned that your work is in some sense, the reaction, or rather the lack of controversy to your work is sort of a tribute to Indian liberalism and you justified that as saying that there are so many versions of the Ramayana, for example, and you could look at your work as something in the same tradition. So my question is, there was this controversy about
I should clarify, my books are nowhere in that quality.
Yeah.
But it's I'm following a tradition. Mine is a very small,
I'm
insignificant edition.
Yeah. But I mean, I didn't say it, you said it.
You're a journalist, aren't you?
So, I'm not a journalist. So my question is that there was this controversy around this essay by Ramanujan on 300 Ramayanas, right? And you raised the exact same issue as a tribute to Indian liberalism. On the other hand, that controversy was about that essay was not allowed to be introduced in universities. I mean, how do you reconcile this with you gave the exact same fact as a tribute to Indian liberalism, and I'm just pointing out an example of where
fair enough. I'm not saying India is perfect. We as a country are a work in progress. I feel many of our laws are actually not in consonance with our true culture. There's a reason why freedom of expression, and we never really speak about this issue. We keep going off on tangents. We have to speak of the core issue. Why is it difficult to defend freedom of expression in India? It's because of this change to our constitution called the First Amendment. It was brought in 1951. Our original constitution was actually deeply liberal. Under Article 19, freedom of expression was considered as a fundamental right. It was almost as secure as the freedom of expression standards in the US, which I'm sure you're aware is even stronger than what it is in Europe. Why was this change brought in? From what I know, there was a journal right here in Chennai, a communist journal, which was criticizing the government of the day, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's government, and that journal was banned. And the proprietor of that journal went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that his fundamental rights under Article 19 have been curbed, and hence they unbanned that journal. Then the First Amendment was brought in. Ironically, the First Amendment in the US actually guarantees free speech. In India, the First Amendment curtails free speech. It also curtails various other things like right to property, etc. But I think the primary, perhaps the disservice to liberalism and freedom of expression was this curtailment of freedom of expression. Reasonable restrictions were brought in, and the authorities would decide what is reasonable, what is not, which is rife with disaster because it gives in to the personal prejudices of the authorities. Who the hell gives the authorities to decide what is reasonable and what is not? So the core issue, and which is why you cannot even go to courts and fight this case, because the Constitution specifically debars unfettered freedom of expression because of the First Amendment. So if we want to solve this problem, we have to repeal the First Amendment. Now, I myself am a proponent of freedom of expression, but I do realize that we live in a democracy. So it's a choice that society makes, okay? And we have to live as per the norms of the society. freedom of expression is not an easy value to fight for. At times you have to take up the risk of loss of peace and stability. I, for one, say no, that it's a value worth fighting for, because it's the fundamental freedom on which all other freedoms are based. But this is a choice that the society has to make. If the society feels strongly enough, hopefully they'll vote for people and they'll put pressure on their MPs to repeal the First Amendment. There are some who defend what Pandit Nehru did with the First Amendment, saying that, boss, at that time, India was a new country, he had to ensure stability. There are some who say, no, it was a fundamental attack on our freedoms. I don't know what the entire country feels. I know what I feel. I feel the First Amendment should be repealed. This is the fundamental issue which has to be addressed to handle the issue of freedom of expression. Yes, sir.
Sir,
If you can introduce yourself.
Sir, I am V. Guru Karthik, PhD research scholar, Annamalai University, Chidambaram. I am fortunate enough to do PhD research work on your Shiva trilogy, sir.
On my book?
Yes.
You're doing research work on my book?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I am doing a PhD research. Just I have one question. Can you say about the transformational stages of Tibetan tribal leader Shiva into Mahadeva, god of gods? Can you say the transformational stages of Shiva?
Oh my, there are so many. One was, of course, it's a rap. Okay, sorry. Do I have to stop now? Can I answer this question? Okay, I can. I'm a good boy. I follow the rules.
Just answer the question.
Okay, so there are many, and I've discussed that in it. And there was, since sadly there are a few people who haven't read the entire trilogy, shame on you guys. So I'll try and be a little careful with my answer. There was, of course, the incident when he was young, which was a seminal moment for him, which drove him to, in this attitude that he cannot say no to someone who asks for help. There was, of course, the influence of his uncle. Then there was, of course, the influence of Satiji, right? Like I said, one of the most powerful forces in the heart of a man is the desire to impress the one he loves most. And that was a seminal moment for him. Then the fact his conversations with the Vasudevs actually helped him understand what his true mission is. And then, of course, his realization at the end of Meluva and then right through the Nagas that things aren't always what they seem. The world is a lot more complex than simple black and white. And you have to dig deep to truly understand what is the core problem. And then, of course, the moment at the end where he had to do what he had to do. And there, I'm trying to leave you with some questions. The entire approach at the end of the Oath of the Vayuputras is similar to how our traditional epics used to be at the end, which is leave you with more questions at the end than you had at the beginning. Because the purpose is to, in seeking those answers to those questions, you'll learn some philosophies which help you through life. Yeah? Okay. Thank you.
No, 1 second. No, I think we have to wrap it. He'll take questions outside, I think, so.
Sorry, man.
Yeah,
It's a very short question.
no, I think we.
No,
Thank.
Sorry.
Amiji, you tell Shiva you are an instrument of Shiva. Shiva reigns through you. According to the Puranas, there is something called Asuras, there is something called Devas. They fight about each other. But in your book, it was totally Kali, Ganesh were being depicted in the dark shades at the start, and then everything has changed back. So do you mean to say that there are no bad people, only bad events and bad places and bad circumstances make people into such a person?
I'll answer the question very simply for you. The concept of asuras being green demons with horns, that comes from Amar Chitra Katha comics actually. And I hate to point it out, but Amar Chitra Katha is actually not a part of the Hindu scriptures. If you actually go back in the original Puranas and the Vedas, you will realize that actually the asuras were not pure evil demons. The asuras and the devas were actually cousins. The asuras were also the children of Maharshi Kashyap as were the Devas. The Devas were the children of Maharshi Kashyap through Aditi, and the Asuras through Diti, right? So the Rig Veda refers to Lord Varun as an Asura. It refers to, interestingly, in two passages, refers to Lord Indra also as an Asura. Okay? So in the traditional way, the Asuras were not these pure evil demons. There were good and bad among them. There were good and bad within the Devas as well. And the entire concept was that the true battle lies within. You have good within you, you have bad within you. And many times people whom you see as bad are just people who are weak, who cannot stand up to circumstances. So you have to, and evil is something that exists beyond mere human distinctions. Evil is something that's much bigger. And that's the thought I'm trying to convey through the Shiva trilogy. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go. I think
Thank you,
they're ready
audience.
to kick me out now.
Thank you, audience, and thank you, Amish, for the conversation and also for the major revelation at the Hindu Lit Fest that you're next.
Sorry,
You're
sorry.
working on a series. Thank you for making this the platform for that revelation. So, thank you, everybody.